Welcome in. It is day 327, and you're speaking to the Meeples Champion. And today we're going to be going over another one of the Kickstarters that I backed this past year, and that I am waiting on coming in the mail. Now, this was a game that, when I went to prepare for this, I didn't really remember what it was exactly. It was a sci-fi style, it was in space, but I wasn't really sure much about the game. Thankfully, I found a full playthrough. I got to enjoy watching all the way, and I definitely feel like I learned a couple things I don't think I knew when I backed it. The game is called Kuiperium. Now, in the game, this is a two-player only racing game, which I don't think I knew it was a racing game. The idea of the game is that when you start it, you're going to have a grid. You and your opponent are on opposite sides of this grid, and whenever you place cards down, you're placing them within the grid. All of the grid that's on your side will face you. All the cards on your opponent's side faces them. As you place things out, basically you're going to collect cards, and then on your turn you're going to be spending different resources you've gathered to be allowed to place a card down on your side of the grid. Then you also have the option to be placing workers. However, the workers go into the side of your opponent. So you're going to be going onto their side of the grid to place a worker somewhere. Now, when somebody places down a card, they're going to get a payout by placing the card. So you might put it out and it might say, collect a couple crystals. But now, that was a one-time payout. I placed the card, I got the reward for that card. Then, until the card leaves your board, the card is available for workers to go onto for your opponent. Now, they don't get it when they first go there. They place out the workers one by one, and then eventually they can do a worker recall action, and that's how they're activated. So you might do this action and get 2 crystals, but the recall might be 2 or even 3 crystals, and then they can go back there and keep recalling. So this becomes a big payout source for your opponent. This is the reason you need to be careful about what you place and when. Now, the purpose of the game is not necessarily to be getting loads of crystals or other resources you're trying to gather, getting more cards. What it's about is that there is actually, on the side of the main board, you both have a ship, and you've got this spiraling runway that you're on, and you're trying to get to the end. Now, in order to do this, you have to get, I can't remember the exact name for it, but essentially you're going to get movement points. However, you don't get to add them together. So if on your turn you recall from 3 spots, and it just so happens this one gives you a movement point, that one gives you 1, and this one gives you 1, which is not often, but some do give you these, you don't get to add them and do 3 movement. You have to do them each individually, which means if a move requires 2 movement, you don't have any of those individually doing 2, you can't do it. And at the same time, if you have 3 movement and you were to move 1, and then the next spot would be 5, and you don't have 5, you have only 2 left over, well, you got to move the 1, but the 2 cannot add anything else, and you lose it. So you got to be careful about that. The real way to get the movement is removing the cards. Now, the way this works is you have to pay 4 crystals. It's an entire action. When you do this, you're going to go to the corner of your card. Every card has in its corner symbols, and those symbols will potentially match up with the corners of up to 3 cards in each corner. So you might find you have a little yellow block, and then you look in the corner, you go, well, there isn't a card to its left, but there is one above it, and there is one above to the left of it. The one above it also has a yellow block, but the one above and to the left of it has some kind of a green symbol instead. So you get 1 point for that yellow block. And then you look to the right and you go, well, there's nothing above it or above to the right, but directly to its right, they both share that green symbol. There's 2. Then we look below, oh, it's another yellow block, and this one has 2 of them matching, that's up to 4. And then you look to the right and you go, okay, and this one has a silver one, and it's only 1 card there, but they match, that's 5. So when you do your action, you pay your 4 crystals, you count, and you hit 5. Now you have 5 movement points you can use, either all together to go from one spot to the next because it's 4 or 5 movement, or for multiple spots because you can move it and minus off of that. So you might go, okay, I'm going to go 1, I'm down to 4, another 1, I'm down to 3, here's a 2, I'll use them both, the next one's another 2, I can't move it, I only have 1 left over, but I was able to go the 1, and the 2. You do that, you're done with your turn. You're going to go back and forth on this, and it's an interesting setup because you have somebody who's constantly cashing just enough to keep moving, and they're getting this movement going. Meanwhile, you might be setting up big payouts and be like, well, they've gotten a whole bunch of 1s and 2s, and every once in a while they get a 3, and they've gotten a real good distance, but I've been paying attention, and all of a sudden I legitimately put a card down, recalled it with my pay 4 action, and had a all 12 matchup, and just flew through a part of the map. So you can move quick on this map. There is possible ways to really make a distance fast. But essentially that's all the game is. Well, that's the basics of the game. There's a lot more actions, but again, I haven't played this yet. I've only been able to watch a playthrough. I've backed it on Kickstarter, and I've looked a lot into it. But why don't we jump in? Let's talk our 7 categories and see where this one lands for us today. When it comes to that art, the box sold me on this. Now, I've mentioned in the past, I don't have many space sci-fi themed games. I like them. It's just I'm more of a fantasy person. I'm more medieval style, blacksmithing, stuff like that. So for me, I just don't have many of these. And this one, the box grabbed me. It was just a great, it basically looks like a station or a large ship. There's a really cool setup of like, spatial awareness going on around it, asteroids and stuff like that. I just really liked the box. It's what got me to look at it. And then when I looked at the way it was set up on the Kickstarter and followed through its page, I really liked the grid setup and the card placement. So for me, the art did a fantastic job. Your components. So primarily you have 2 components. You have your cards and you have your crystals. Now there's some other components as well. There's things you can build up as far as, well, you have your ships on the side, and those are a nice plastic that's going to move, and you're going to have cards that you can assign that are going to give you advantages that are more like a little cardboard upgrade based on certain colors that you've taken advantage of. But in general, it's cards and crystals, and it's all really good quality. Thumbs up. Your price. Now I don't know where this is going to land in stores. However, it's a 2-player game. It looks like it's probably coming in that range of $50, maybe $60 on average. Now, I paid more like $80 because of shipping and everything else, but it shouldn't be that expensive. I'm not sure how available this is going to be. As a 2-player game, something tells me this is going to be in some good board game stores. I think it is going to get online. I think it's going to have some popularity to it, but I don't really know. And for right now, all I can judge is that it is a good price, and we just don't know how available it is yet. I'm going to say that until I see otherwise, I think that it looks like a good price. It's up to the availability. I'm hoping for the best. Thumbs up. Your difficulty. So, I don't think this is a game for kids. However, I do think beginners can try it, and I think that your experienced and your experts are going to really enjoy this game, specifically because it's 2-player. If this game was going 3, 4, 5-player, I might back up a bit. But at 2-player, I think it's perfect. And because it's not inviting for more, that to me is a huge plus. Thumbs up. Replayability. The game doesn't look like it's going to take long. Should be under an hour, maybe even about 45 minutes. And for me, that means you could play this twice in a row. You could play this game, if it's a 2-player, with your spouse, your friends, your family, easily a few times a week. I don't think this is going to be a game I necessarily am pulling out every week, but I think this is one that I'm going to find myself pulling out on an average of at least once a month. So for me, thumbs up. Your keys to victory. Now, I said this before. You already have the fact that you could focus in on trying to get quick points for the movement, or you could focus on trying to put together a mechanism for big points later. But you also have to focus on how you're going to get those crystals to pay to get the points. If you're doing a bunch of little points, that means you're paying for a bunch. Or are you trying to specifically target cards that are going to give you a point reward? Try to make sure you take advantage early on and not waste any crystals. Or are you going to make a crystal manufacturing to get advantage there? Or the cards that you can get flipped that'll give you bonuses through the game, are you focusing in early on those, ignoring your movement, and trying to make sure that you've set up something so that you're able to get more access to bonus laying of cards, bonus crystals coming in, and then mid-late game, suddenly you don't have to do as much work for those, and you can really hit it up strong. I think that there's plenty of keys to victory here. Thumbs up. Is the game unique? I think this game looks very unique. Is there possibilities that this game is going to reflect partially or fully another game? Always. But as I've mentioned before, I haven't played every game. Nobody has, because there's, at this point, since the board game boom really happened, we're getting over 1,000 legitimately good games a year. Which means since I got into board games, there's been probably at least 15,000 legitimately good board games to come out. So, could a game that have incorporated pieces or most of what this game have come out before? 100%. But the odds are that if it wasn't popular enough for me to know, then I really can't compare that to this. I have to let unique not only be about if you have a straight up obvious one that you see, but also be about if there is stuff out there that could reflect this, but I don't know about it because it just didn't take off, then this is unique. If this one does take off and that one didn't, and then nobody really knows about that game, and when they play this, there's nothing they think about, how can I really argue the uniqueness factor to it? So for me, this game for right now looks very unique. Thumbs up. Overall, what do I think? I think this game is going to be really fun. I'm looking forward to having it in as a 2-player option for me and my wife, and I think it's going to be one I'm going to bring my game nights for the occasions that we only have 2 people or only 4 or 5 of us and want to do a 2 and a 2 or a 2 and a 3-player game night. And I think this is one that I will enjoy to play a bunch for a period of time. I'm not a big racing person, but this is the right theme, the right setup for me to get me into that kind of game. Well, it has been day 327, and we've been speaking about the game Kuiperium. And you've been speaking to the Meeples Champion. Like, share, subscribe, and check down below in the description. When this game does come out, I'll be adding in an Amazon link so that you can pick it up for your collection. And don't forget to check out Board Game Arena under my name, The Meeples Champion. You can request me to play a game with you. You can ask me to be your friend. I try to jump on a couple times a day. Until next time, I'll talk to you tomorrow.